Hello. Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 2018, parents, friends, teachers, and family of St. John's International School, you've done it. You're here, you've made it, and you should all be very, very proud of yourselves. Give yourselves a round of applause. I would like to thank Marcia DeWolf and the whole team here for this massive honor of coming back to speak to you all here today. It's so wonderful to be back home. 21 years ago, I stood here at my graduation in the room next door in what used to be called the new gym, which is now called the old gym, and that tells you how long ago it was. I stood here in front of my classmates, having been picked to deliver the student address, and I was so nervous and excited, full of hope and apprehension, with a very questionable flowery shirt on. Some things never change. I still try and live my life full of hope. I still have questionable fashion sense, but most of all, I still carry the most wonderful core of what St. John's instilled in me. In that speech, in my green gown, I spoke of what was ahead and what made us who we are as St. John's Lions. Woohoo! Mostly, I spoke of the honor that I felt, and if I'm honest, that feeling has never left. I also used a quote from a friend and philosopher, Kermit T. Frog. And he said, "It's not easy being green." The year I graduated, I was one of the first students to go through the entire St. John's schooling process, from nursery to 12th grade. I came to St. John's not speaking a word of English, and my mother always likes to remind me, I arrived in September, speaking only French, and by Christmas I was fully bilingual with that trademark transatlantic American accent, and haven't stopped speaking since. I spent most of my adult life after leaving St. John's as an actor. I was in musical theater in the West End for 15 years. I got to be on stage, on screen. I've voiced cartoons, audiobooks, and video games. I've played aliens, drag queens, Mormons. I got to travel the world and see some amazing places while doing the thing that I love. And that passion and that bug started here. I was lucky enough when I was 12 to be in a Belgian feature film called Toto le Héros, and at that time, in what mainly was a sports-based school, my entire grade went to the Cinéma Wellington to watch me on the big screen. And that support from St. John's and some amazing teachers along the way was what carried through until graduation. That wasn't to say it was an easy ride. When you're one of the only theater kids in quite a sporty year, you stick out. But I tried to embrace that, and this school allowed me to do that. Okay, look, I'm not going to overload you with things that I've learned over the years or some old man wisdom, because I haven't figured it out yet, and we should never stop learning. So, there are a few things that I would tell my 18-year-old self. So there's 7 points. I'm going to bash through them. The first one is, fail often. Get comfortable with failing. I realize that this is supposed to be an empowering speech, but coming out of high school, feeling like I was at the top of a roller coaster right before you're about to dip, I was so scared of failing and so scared of falling. And like a roller coaster, it's gonna dip sometimes, and you might see exactly where it's going, and you might throw your hands up in the air and have a lovely time, but there are other times you get flipped around and you don't know where you end up. But sometimes the places you end up are even better than the ones you dreamed of. Number 2. Be humble. Remember, we are all humans. We're all in the same race to figure out our own truths. Love your peers. Support them. Be respectful. Be kind. Karma is a real thing. Don't let it bite you. Number 3, never underestimate the power of the mundane and the banal of daily life. On the flip side of that roller coaster analogy, sometimes the day-to-day can feel immobile and repetitive, but if you come to terms with the fact that some things can be quiet and samey, it doesn't mean that you're not moving forward. Every day doesn't necessarily have fireworks, so create your own peace and stability. And one great way of doing that is, number 4, keep a daily routine. Exercise, surround yourself with dance, drama, music, and make sure you do one thing that scares you every day. It helps, it really does. Number 5, and this is relevant to us all, Detox yourself from technology. Distance yourself from your phones and your computers. They can make us lazy with a short attention span and twist our view on reality. People's social media are not who they actually are. Emails and texts can get misinterpreted. Our screens can hurt our eyes and affect our sleep pattern, so just try and use your head Google. Instead, go out and climb a mountain, start writing postcards again, and listen to a vinyl record album all the way through. Number 6, get to know your parents and learn from your elders. They are always trying to lovingly impart knowledge and advice on you, which as a teenager can feel overwhelming. So reverse it. Interview them about their life, their loves, and some basic life skills like gardening, sewing, cooking. You might need that next year. Ask them about their dreams. It's so interesting. Finally, number 7, stop trying to fit into a box. Worry less about what other people think. Keep your focus on what you ultimately want from life. It doesn't have to be specific, just aim to be the best version of yourself. As a talent agent, which is what I now do, I found that sometimes we all try and fit into a mold of what people expect us to be, and that never comes out quite right. It's so much more interesting to see the real core of someone. The wonderful thing about diversity is that no one can be better at being you than you. So love every single bit of that. So that's the life tips done. I just quickly want to talk about what St. John's people are made of. And I find that it's a question of atmosphere here, thanks to the close student-teacher respect and relationship. And most of all, it's that multicultural atmosphere that I love and carry out to seek out in my own life. In the early days of my acting career, I auditioned for a man called Sir Trevor Nunn for an American musical of Gone with the Wind. And he said, you're American. And I said, no. And he said, Canadian? I said, no. My mom's French and my dad's British, originally from Mauritius, and I grew up in an international school in Belgium. And he frowned and blinked a few times, and then his frown turned into a massive smile, and he said, your people are the future. And he was right. As cheesy as that sounds, you guys are absolutely the future. You have the privilege of being part of a wonderful group called Third Culture Kids. And just by being here, you've been dunked into that wonderful mix, like a cocktail or a hodgepodge or a smorgasbord, if you will. For us, being asked that dreaded question, so where are you from, at a dinner party, can take about half an hour to answer. Because our hearts lie in so many different countries. Maybe the place you were born in has no correlation to your accent, or your passport has nothing to do with the place you call home, and that's okay. I can't tell you the hours that I've spent with other people who were schooled either here at St. John's or another international school discussing nationalism and identity, and we would talk about how many languages we can curse in, very important, or how we've spent weekends in someone's family finding out about their culture and their food, or the amazing cities that we've visited in an ISTA festival or an ISST sports tournament. And that is the beauty of being who you guys are. Although we may still have very much a connection to our respective heritages and backgrounds, there is that wonderful intrinsic sense of being a student of the world. And that, to me, is what being a human being should be about. Getting to know about ourselves and the wonderful, colorful array of what makes us, us. Okay, so you know sometimes in my dreams or if I'm having a hard day at work, I can close my eyes and I remember the feeling of walking down to Lombois, or think of the feeling of the wind in my face while I was playing Little League baseball out there on that baseball field. Or I daydream about what my classmate from my graduating class is doing. And it gives me so much comfort to know that most of the molecules and the building blocks of who makes me me are right here. On that June day in 1997, I said to people in front of me, St. John's is a community which does not, after 13 years of schooling, set forth a product of that school, but an individual with knowledge, experience, and goals. So as I look out on all of your faces, surrounded by the friends that you'll have for life, please know that you have the foundation to conquer the world. Merci beaucoup, bonne chance, félicitations, and go Lions.